Today on Rappler, the Supreme Court orders the military to submit reports about missing activist Jonas Burgos. Team Pinoy bets campaign in Maguindanao and promise peace. And North Korea threatens Japan with nuclear retaliation if it gets involved in the Korean Peninsula conflict. Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. Welcome to Rappler, your social news network. The Supreme Court orders the military to produce all documents related to the case of missing activist Jonas Burgos. On April 28, 2007, unidentified men kidnapped Burgos in a restaurant inside a Quezon City mall. Burgos was an alleged member of the Communist New People's Army based in Bulacan. On Thursday, the High Court orders Armed Forces Chief of Staff General Emmanuel Bautista about a supposed after-apprehension report prepared by two Army intelligence task forces, the Task Force Organization 56th Infantry Battalion and the Task Force Organization 72M MICO. The court also asks the AFP chief to submit a report about the location of officers and soldiers in the two task forces. Former 56th Battalion Commander Colonel Melquiades Feliciano and Major Harry Baliaga are implicated in the case. In a decision dated March 18th, the Court of Appeals said Baliaga was responsible for Burgos' disappearance. On April 1, Mrs. Burgos asks the Supreme Court to order the Court of Appeals to reopen the case following new evidence linking the military to the abduction, including a photo of Jonas taken allegedly after he was kidnapped. The Supreme Court issues a temporary protection order for Edita Burgos, mother of missing activist Jonas Burgos, after new evidence about her son's case surfaced. The Supreme Court directs the Justice Department and the National Bureau of Investigation to provide security and protection for Mrs. Burgos and her immediate family, quote, in light of the sensitive nature of the newly discovered evidence. Mrs. Burgos asked the courts to reopen the case of her son after submitting new evidence and supposed military records that proved Jonas was in the custody of the Army when he disappeared in 2007. President Benigno Aquino visits Maguindanao to endorse Team Pinoy bets. The visit is crucial for the ongoing peace process, but the unresolved Maguindanao massacre remains a sore point against him. Natasha Gutierrez reports.
Peace and progress. This is Team Pinoy's promise to the people of Maguindanao and the autonomous region of Muslim Mindanao during its visit to Buluan City on Friday, April 12. It's the first time a president has ever set foot in Buluan. Akino endorses his local allies, incumbent Maguindanao Governor Esmael Toto Magundadatu and Regional Officer in Charge Mujib Hataman. Magundadatu is running for re-election while Hataman is gunning for ARMM Governor.
Kung gusto natin tumakas pangkar, kung gusto natin lumago ang kultura ng ating pamamahala, wala po kayong ibang dapat gawin kundi ang iboto si Mujib sa Mayo Abre. Toto ang liwanag ng pagbabago nangyari sa Maguindanao. Isusunod sa marami.
Hataman too vows to transform the region and tells voters the time has come for reforms.
Ating obligasyon bilang leader ng mamamayang Moro na dapat ituwid ang mali ng nakaraan. Itama ang baluktot ng nakaraan. Pangalawa, maliban ito sa panawagan ng ating pamahalaan sa pangunguna ng Pangulong Noynoy Aquino, ito rin ho bilang isang Muslim ay obligasyon natin na baguhin ang mga mali ng nakaraan.
Aquino's senatorial bets also push for peace. No one mentions the Maguindanao massacre of 2009 on stage, the deadliest election violence in the country's recent history. Akino only refers to it when he praises Magundadatu's strength to move on from the tragedy. But on the sidelines, Magundadatu tells reporters it still plays a factor in elections.
Malaking pinagbago. Ang tao dito ayaw na rin magpaloko, sila na rin ang nasusunod. At generally peaceful kami. Wala na yung namumuwersa sa amin.
He also expresses faith justice will be served his wife and other victims, because Aquino promised he would resolve the case before his term ends. While the president has done much for peace in Mindanao with the peace process with the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, the unresolved massacre sticks out as a sore point. 3 years later, the lack of tangible results in prosecuting the killers remain as one of the biggest criticisms against Akino. Akino has crucial promises to fulfill in Maguindanao. This province is vital to his peace agenda with the MILF. But in exchange for the province's support comes the expectation to serve justice for the victims of the Maguindanao massacre, the reason why locals want better leaders in the first place. Natasha Gutierrez, Rappler, Maguindanao.
Vice President Jejomar Binay's United Nationalist Alliance campaigns in Western Visayas, known as the bailiwick of administration stalwarts, including Liberal Party President on leave, Mar Roxas, who comes from Capiz. From April 12 to 15th, UNA senatorial candidates will visit Aklan, Antique, Bacolod, and Iloilo. In the 2010 vice presidential race, Roxas beat Binay in Western Visayas, Central Visayas, and Caraga in Mindanao. But UNA campaign manager Toby Chanco says the 2013 midterm polls will be different. Binay and his coalition have allies in the region, with Sam Lakas, Nacionalista Party, and LP members transferring to UNA after 2010. But Team Pinoy boasts of the LP strength in Western Visayas because of the Roxas factor. On April 10th, President Benigno Aquino visited Roxas's home province of Capiz to endorse local LP candidates. Brother Eddie Villanueva in politics? Well, he's going to try again for the third time. Although best known as an evangelist, the senatorial candidate hopes his background in activism and the academe will win the voters. Devin Wong reports.
Brother Eddie has been many things in his life. Running for senator, he's hoping his third run will be the charm. Most voters will recognize him as an evangelist campaigning for the third time after his 2 failed attempts in previous elections. But Brother Eddie prefers to describe himself in different terms.
Brother Eddie is a full-blooded Democrat.
Brother Eddie is a man of several reinventions, and he's not shy to remind you of his colorful past.
If you know my life, I was imprisoned twice in fighting for the democratic freedom of our people. I used to be a radical student activist, atheist, and I can say intellectually communist.
Brother Eddie isn't bothered by concerns that his religion will affect his duties as a senator. He says it's the demolition job of opposing candidates that have demonized his religious background. According to Brother Eddie, there should be less concern over religious leaders running for public office.
You are in a better position because you have moral values. Why Brother Eddie, who is an economist, a professor, an academic scholar before, and now an evangelist, should be questioned to run for public office? It seems as they are afraid that corruption might be wiped out when people with Christian values would enter politics.
Once seen as a potential dark horse when he ran for president in 2004, Brother Eddie's star is waning. A month away from the May elections, his ratings are trailing. Will he have enough mass appeal to win him a senatorial seat? And how will this master in reinvention pull off a last-minute turnaround? Devin Wong, Rappler, Manila.
North Korea warns Japan it risks nuclear retaliation if it gets involved in the conflict on the Korean peninsula. The Korean Central News Agency says Japan is always in the crosshairs of our revolutionary army. If Japan makes the slightest move, the spark of war will touch Japan first. On Friday, Japan says it will take, quote, every possible measure to respond to any scenario. It authorized its armed forces to shoot down any North Korean missile headed toward its territory. Patriot missile batteries are stationed around Tokyo to protect the 30 million people who live there. Well, let's now look at Rappler's Wrap for today, a list of the 10 most important events around the world you shouldn't miss. At number 1, top U.S. officials urge China to help stop North Korea's destabilizing actions. As the world waits for Pyongyang to carry out an expected missile launch, President Barack Obama also calls on North Korea to end its, quote, belligerent approach. Secretary of State John Kerry is on his first official visit to Asia. At number 6, the United Nations launches a plan to eradicate childhood deaths from diarrhea and pneumonia by 2025 to try to save the lives of some 2 million children every year. The UN's agencies for health and children say they're joining forces with governments and other bodies to use existing methods to take on these diseases. The plan aims to slash the incidence of severe cases of both by 75% and to cut the number of children stunted by them by 40% by 2025. And at number 9, Google is providing a $3 million grant to Polaris Project, Liberty Asia, and La Strada International to create a network of data that aims to, quote, disrupt the web of human trafficking. Called the Human Trafficking Hotline Network, the initiative aims to connect various anti-trafficking hotlines around the world. For the full top 10, visit Rappler.com's The Wrap. Every story on Rappler has a mood meter which gives you 8 emotions to choose from. Click how you feel and your vote comes to the mood navigator in the middle of the front page. That crowdsources the mood of the day. It also gives you the top 10 stories that have affected Filipinos emotionally. If we take a look here, these are the stories that have gotten the most votes on their mood meter. The story that in the last 24 hours that most people have clicked on is this one. Vice President Binay lobbied for General Garcia. This is connected to the plea bargain deal. 95% angry. Connected to that, 2 other major red circles. Court upholds Garcia plea bargain deal, 97% angry, 2% sad, and the Supreme Court lifts freeze order on General's 54 million peso asset, a whopping 100% angry. That story alone contributing a lot to the mood of the day. Well, you see, most people are angry. That is Rappler's Newscast for today, Friday, April 12, 2013. It is the weekend. Visit Rappler.com and watch our newscast Monday to Friday. Tell us how you feel on our mood meter and help us crowdsource the mood of the day. I'm Maria Ressa. As we say at Rappler, tomorrow begins today.